Good morning, everyone. It is Velva Dawn Silver, and I'm here with the beautiful Tracey MacLellan. So we are here. I had this idea, actually, it's been brewing for quite some time. And I actually used to host a radio show on 1-2 Radio, and I loved interviewing people and connecting and sharing stories. So many of you know that I do a lot of work with the Goddess Healing Matrix System as the founder. And what I've been discovering through this COVID process is that there's people out there that are needing to understand that we're all going through the same thing. So I want to welcome you to the hashtag Wisdom Weaver Wednesday with Velva Dawn. And this is where we're going to be sharing what has happened with many women. I will be interviewing men. Good morning, Jennifer. It's good to see you. Thanks for joining. What I want to do is I want this platform to be real and raw. I want these to be real stories, and Tracey has volunteered to be my first guest. So nothing is off limits. We are going to talk honestly. Good morning, Margarita. And we are going to share stories, hopefully to help those of you that are struggling with different situations in life. We want to give you tools and inspiration and laughter. We want, of course, there to be laughter in the day, so that you can understand that we're all human and we're all going through this together. So welcome to the hashtag Wisdom Weaver Wednesday. So what I want to share first is I want to share a little bit about Tracey. So Tracey and I were just talking this morning. We've known each other, roughly 10 years. We sort of gathered with New Moon Group 10 years ago, back when I was living on the ranch. Right. And at the retreat center, I would have a New Moon Group and we would connect. And women would gather and we felt safe here and we could sort of explore our spirituality. So what happened during that time is Tracey and I became good friends. So I want to share a little bit about her. Not only is she beautiful and funny, and she is my partner in crime for all things adventurous, but she's an island girl, born in Cape Breton, born and raised, and made her way out to Calgary. Yeah. And she's a mother of 4. And we've gone through a lot of things together. And so how this came about, good morning, Carrie. How this came about was I have some amazing girlfriends, and we were on the phone one morning and we were talking back and forth. And I said to her, do you know anything about love bombing? What is love bombing? And she said, oh, you should follow Dr. Romani. And I was like, yes. And so I started watching, and then we talk about things that I feel are important. And that is why we're doing the Wisdom Weaver, is because we want to share the things that we would have in conversation on the phone, having our coffee, which is what we're doing, with each other, and just sharing inspiration. So I want to thank all of you for joining us here today. Slowly but surely, the numbers are climbing, so that's a good thing. So how do we want to start here? We have different categories, which we're going to go through. Now, Tracey doesn't know all of the questions I'm going to ask her, and she's been very amazing in saying, shoot from the hip, nothing is off limits for me. So what I'm going to do is I am going to start with today. So today is February the 10th, and good morning, Nancy. And when I opened my Facebook memories, I was surprised to see that it's been 5 years today that I rode in an ambulance, there's my throat chakra, to the local hospital, and then spent 5 days in CCU. So part of what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about divorce. We're going to talk about how we moved through divorce. Hi, Tracey. We're going to move through tools that we use to move through those situations, and how we are today in this moment dating. I'm 49 and you are
48.
Oh, you're a year younger than I am.
Yeah.
Okay. So here we are dating in our late 40s, and we're going to talk about the difference between the 20s and the 40s, or even the teens when we were dating. So I just want to say welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Stepping outside my comfort zone. It's a good challenge.
It is a good challenge. Yeah. It's about growth. So a little bit about today, 5 years ago for me, is I was going through a separation and I was still humming and hawing whether, I wanted to make the situation or the decision, a solid, firm decision that I wanted to get divorced. I've been married for 21 years, which was a long time. And I have 3 children myself who are 23, 20, and 17. And I ended up having chest pain, which started in my chest. It radiated down my left arm and up my left jaw. And I was actually on the phone with my good friend Cody. And we were talking about the Shine event, which Tracey has the mug from there. And I knew that I was having a heart attack. So long story short, I'd had a disagreement with my husband that morning talking about the separation. And I tried to contact him and get a hold of him. And he was in an appointment and he didn't call me back. Good morning, Tara. Good morning, Susan. Good morning, Dalen. And so I was there on the ranch by myself having a heart attack and I was wondering what to do. I knew that I was alone. So I ended up finally calling 911 and going in an ambulance to the local hospital where the doctor came in and said, ma'am, you are definitely, having a cardiac event and we need to get you into Calgary. Mm-hmm. So how this weaves in with Tracey and I is I was moved into CCU and I was fresh in the room. They just hooked all my leads up and there was a whiteboard actually with all my differential diagnoses on the board. And I had sort of looked at them, but I was kind of truly in a state of shock because here I am, 44 years old, and, I've had a heart attack per se is what they figured. So Tracey had contacted me and she said, hey, I'm working. Can I stop by? And I said, absolutely. And she came in and she looked at the board. I don't know if you remember this, but she looked at the diagnoses and she said, have you read these? And I said, well, sort of, but not really. And she's like, no, if you look at the 5th one here, it's really serious. And I remember thinking to myself, really? And I said, what is it? And she said, basically your heart muscle will disintegrate and there's nothing that they can do. And I remember sitting there and she was in there in that moment with me where I was just in awe that she was holding space for me, in this moment. And since then, we've gone through a lot together, but the whole point of the wisdom weaver here is that we weave wisdom through our connections to bring inspiration, support, collaboration, and love when we need it. And she was that for me during that time and has been for many other things. And so my story is the moment that I knew that my divorce needed to happen was when my husband at the moment, he didn't answer the phone and I spent a lot of time alone in CCU by myself, just because of circumstances and choices. I knew in that moment that I wanted something different. So I'm going to turn it over to you now and I'm going to ask you that question. Being a divorced woman, when was the moment that you knew that your marriage was over?
That's a good question. I don't think there was a build up to a pinnacle moment such as yours, which also I think we're similar, that we process a lot of things through our bodies or emotions through our bodies. But I felt that there was a lot of defining moments along the way that led to this one particular day that I was feeling overwhelmed and I, got myself dressed up as beautifully as I could and thought I'm going to seize the day. I was being pulled in a bunch of different directions. My husband at the time was not emotionally available to me. I witnessed him on a work call that day and was trying to speak with him. He was trying to catch a plane to go back to work and to leave the family again. And I really went into this space of, I just need to get through. I just need to push forward. I couldn't connect with him and I couldn't understand how he was choosing to connect with others. And yeah, it was almost a full stop emotionally, except I was physically still trying to push through. So he missed his flight and wanted me to drive him to the airport. There was a whole bunch of ricochet things that had happened. But I had a meeting that I was always trying to work and juggle all the balls. And after getting myself all dressed up, I fell flat on the floor, face first, and my whole body stung like a really hard smack down. And I felt like the universe was making me pause. And then I went about my day, and I had always had a low-grade gallbladder issue, which I think was me stuffing my anger. And then that began to flare up that day. So by the time I went to the school and dropped off what my daughter needed, or she forgot her lunch or something, I couldn't even talk. And I had a friend, Kara Marshall, that I called on speed dial, because her sisters are always so important. And I couldn't talk to explain what happened. But I also ended up in hospital and went for an emergency surgery, and just really had some alone time and thought, my life matters too. I can't do this anymore. It was sort of the straw that broke the camel's back, but it was devastating. And yeah, it was a lot to process, but I recognized through a lot of work that I had done on myself previously, that if I kept going in the direction I was going, that, you know, I would not probably get very sick and die. Yeah. It's big.
Well, and thank you for sharing that. It's hard to dig up those emotions because, you know, she's made a really good point here. And this is one point that I really want to share with all of you, is that our bodies take the toll and the stress of our emotions when we don't deal with them. So if you feel like, you know, you're invincible and you feel like you can move through life, you know, shut down and not being loved and not loving yourself, eventually that catches up to the body. So for me, I ended up with 2 pulmonary emboli going through my heart and almost dying. And Tracey.
Yeah, well, I mean, I went forward to have the surgery, for which I remember them telling me it could be laparoscopic, which will just be a few days of recovery, as opposed to they may need a full surgery, and it could be up to 6 weeks. And I remember being most upset that I didn't have 6 weeks to put aside, and my life could not stop. But, you know, at that moment I realized, what if it did? You know, or what if something went really wrong in this surgery? So I really kind of surrendered and went into giving it to God and thinking that I need to gain strength from this and realize that I'm going to live differently, or try to find a deeper peace within myself and connection that I was missing.
Well, and I see some of you coming on here. Cheryl is saying, yep, she's just had a major health issue. So I guess what I'm saying is we need to remember that our bodies are all connected. So our emotions, our physical body, and our spiritual body. Right. Whether you're spiritual or not, whatever your belief is, I really want to share that it's all one, and we need to sort of encompass all of it. Okay, so I see lots of you coming on here. If you have any questions as we go through, or you want to share something, you know, please do, because we want to make this light and fun. And we're just relaxing into it now.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to go through some of these categories that I have. Good morning, Tammy. I see that you're joining us. So the categories that I made that I want to ask Tracey about is, good morning, Grace. We're going to talk about dating. Is one category. We have the taboo category. So the taboo category has quite the questions on it, right? It's risque, and we're going to go out there. The career, we have children, relationships, spirituality, love, sex, and age. Okay. So good morning, Vicky. She says, so nice to see you two ladies, the working out and watching. Oh, good for you. I know I'm going to work out after this, Vicky. So that's another part that I want to share, is that the working out is important. And Tracey and I have worked out with Vicky for quite a few years now in her challenge. Okay, so what category would you like first?
Let's do career.
Okay. Okay, so she
like,
chose.
is that safe?
She chose the safe option. You know me being the Aries and the fiery one, I would have chose the taboo. We're gonna go to taboo, so don't you worry. Okay. So I want to ask you, if you won the lottery tomorrow, would you still work in the field that you're working in?
Currently I work with pediatrics, so I think that I'd still work to some capacity with children. So I'd say yes, but not in the career as I know it today. I'd take all the tools I packed away in my toolbox and create something for children that would really help them with anxiety. I see anxiety being a huge issue right now, and we need to teach our kids to process their emotions. And they are our future. So yeah, I would still work, but in a different capacity for sure.
Okay.
And travel.
Travel is key.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Nancy says, I would have chose taboo or sex. Ha ha ha. I know. So if any of you have questions, like I said, please, I can see the feed on here and ask away.
We can go there. We have time. Yeah.
Cheryl says, Children's Meditation Center. Yes, that would be such a good idea, wouldn't it, Cheryl?
Great.
Totally. Okay. So since we're talking about this, I want to go here. Okay. I'm gonna ask you this question. We sort of ran over this last night and we were laughing. Okay. What concerns do you have about aging? So about being a 48-year-old woman, what are some concerns that you have?
That I don't have a pension, that my future isn't planned out. I hear other people talking like, I've got 6 more years to retirement, and I feel that not being married or changing directions or the trajectory of my life, it's not all spelled out. But then when nothing is certain, everything's possible. So I keep telling myself that. But I feel by the old paradigm, the security piece is really a concern for the next leg of the journey. But yeah.
Okay, so I want to add to this. So what she's saying, I feel the same myself. So, when I was married, in that we had a plan, right? It was a goal. And for those of you who are divorced, you understand that when you go through that, breakdown of the foundation, many times your goals and your future looks different.
Yeah.
Your retirement age looks different. Your pension, what is a pension?
Will Canada pension even be a thing?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so we're seeing in the COVID world right now where, things are changing rapidly. And, the way things used to be is not the way they are. Right. And so, yeah, that's definitely. Now I'm going to hop over to dating because, as many of you know, I'm writing the book and I'm almost finished about unwinding the divine masculine. And I've learned a lot. Okay. And Tracey always says to me, you're Aries fire. You always burn through, and move on to the next. And I kind of do that. But I also sort of need to slow down. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to ask you this. We're going to go through quite a few here with the dating. Okay. Some of these are really risky. Okay.
Oh gosh.
Do you need to feel physical chemistry with your partner when you go on your first date? If you're going to choose a second date?
Oh, for sure. 100%. Yeah. I'm like, definitely a must. I feel that, that's something I've learned from my past, that there definitely has to be that chemistry to anchor into. So, and I'm big into smell.
You like smell? They have to smell good?
And not cologne. They have to, it's like a pheromone thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like they just have to be, I don't know. Mm-hmm. There has to be a thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So physical chemistry is really important.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've had a lot of first dates in the last 16 months. And I find that I know instantly on the first date, as soon as I see the person, if they get out of their truck or they open the door, I know instantly if I want to have a second date. It's a visual for me, but then it's like this chemistry or this energy, and I feel it instantly.
Right.
Nancy says, agreed, smell is important. Smell is very important. I find your breath is important, how the person smells, just how they feel, if they're warm, if they're open, or if they're zipped up and they're nervous and tight.
Right.
It makes you not want to open up. Okay.
Sure.
Do you prefer online dating or the old-fashioned way of just running into somebody in the grocery store?
Well, old-fashioned way, just running into somebody in a grocery store would be ideal, or at a yoga class or whatever. But I guess in the world of COVID, it's kind of changed how people connect. And, when I last dated, there was no option for online. So I resisted for a super long time. And then I checked it out. But, it still feels to me like shopping for your person. So I don't know. And I guess in a weird way we are. So you know, people to talk to. I embraced it. I'm a communicator to try to connect with people that way. Still, it also opened my eyes to, wow, I'm kind of naive here. What do you want me to send you? Like, you know,
I know.
really? Anyway, yeah, I've learned a lot.
So I'm laughing because, you know, it has changed. Like, we've talked a lot about the dating, and actually what we do, and this is for all of you men out there, is that, you know, there's many of us women that are single, and what we do is we actually share photos with the guys that we've talked to or that we've dated, and we share the photos with each other. So we'll be like, hey, have you talked to this guy? What is this guy like? And we actually share amongst our circle, because if we can avoid, you know, swiping, if we swipe right, we should have swiped left. For those of you that don't know, swipe left means it's a no-go. Swipe right means it's hell yeah, right? And so we want the hell yeah, not the oh no, right? And I've had some oh no moments, let me tell you, where somebody comes in and he's smelling my hair, and, you know, I'm just like, back up. It's too much, too fast, okay? So we have learned a lot that day. Okay, let's skip back over here. Let's go back and forth. Ooh, okay. I'm looking at these. Okay. We're going in the taboo section, okay? I see many of you coming on here. And I just wanted to say hi, Glenda. Hi, Cheryl. Hi, Shannon. Okay, let's talk about, when did you last cry and what was it about?
Oh gosh, when did I last cry and what was it about? That's tough. I just had a recent conversation with a friend, and they were struggling with mental health, and they were sharing from their heart, and I didn't cry in the moment. I held space and we talked and we sorted things out, but a lot was touched on that I could relate to, and I'm so empathetic. I kind of took on some of those emotions and processed and had a really good cry, and that was my last cry. I often cry about other people's situations.
Being empathic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So Tracey and I both have a history in healthcare. So we have that. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because, you know, I find a lot of people that are in healthcare are empaths. They're people who are natural healers, they're counselors, and you feel other people's pain. You know, and I've moved from healthcare into natural health practitioner myself. And yeah, Shannon is a nurse that's, she's part of my family. She says, when my patient died, I find it really hard. Yes, absolutely. It's very difficult. Yeah. So I want to talk about this right now quickly. Okay. I want to talk about mental health. Yeah. I want to talk about crying. I want to go into that deep, deep space. Okay. I want you to go back into the hardest moments of your divorce and when you were in fear. So, and I want to share this real and raw, because I find so many times that people brush over, and they, you know, many times people will often say to me, and you may find this too, they'll say, you're really strong. You know, I can't imagine that you have cried. Yeah. So like some moments for me, and I'm going deep here, everybody, like really deep, some stuff I haven't shared before. Okay. So there was a moment in my divorce where I actually wanted to drive off the bridge, and I was actually driving out to Longview, and I was going to drive off the bridge. So I did have a couple moments of suicidal, you know, thoughts and moments where I was going there, because I've had the alienation of my two oldest daughters and my divorce and picking up my roots and moving into town, and your financial security is all different. So for me, that was a really moment of mental health. And Tracey and I see the same counselor. She's amazing. Yeah. And I was seeing a psychologist at the time for my girls and for myself. And I also do energy work. And so I'm sharing this with all of you, and Tracey's going to share too, because I want you to understand that when you go through difficult things, you're going to have those moments. And those moments are going to be when you are in that space of, how do I get out of this? And the best thing that I want to share with all of you is have a support system around you. Okay. Have your support team. Talk to your doctor honestly. Get a counselor. Talk to your friends. Share. Pick up the phone and say, I'm having a hard time. I need to talk to you. Right? And many of us are struggling right now again. If you've had a serious situation in your life before, something like this COVID time can be a trigger for anxiety. I know it has been for me, and I'm sure it has been for you. So I'm going to ask you now, in your darkest moments of your divorce, what was that moment? And what did you do to get yourself out of that moment?
I think there's an element of connecting with others that I needed. I'm a talker, all who know me. I like to share that way. But even though I can share deeply that way, there was an element of branching off and being within myself and sitting with the sadness and making peace with the expectations that I had for my future. And I often would just pray or even repeat a mantra, or, I've got victory tattooed on my arm. I would have to anchor into a space of something was going to help me to push through. Music was huge. Like if I was really upset and sad, I often have a long commute and I would play really loud music and if I had to get it out, I would sometimes cry the whole way to work, or, play music that would actually bring those emotions to the forefront. Going to counseling and talking to someone, because your friends get burnt out. They can hold space for you. And I'm like, oh, no one wants to hear about my shit again. But, it's not like that when they're your true soul connections and friends. People are there for you and you're not alone. And there's nothing that you go through that's someone hasn't had a similar or shared experience, or at least can hold space for it. So my darkest, I felt like I often felt like I needed mentorship. I've always been a seeker and feel like I'm a student of life. And I'd listen to Wayne Dyer a lot. Like when I had audiobooks and I just listened to his voice because I believed everything that he said was so pure and real. And on my darkest moments, I'd feel like he'd kind of just lift me up out of the ditch. So kind of, or, give it to Jesus kind of thing.
So the other thing that I want to address, because it's just something that's coming to me. Did you fear judgment of what everybody would think of you? What would your parents think? What would your family think? What would your kids think? What would people think if you made the choice to say, you know what, I need a different life. I need to move through divorce. Was that something that came?
Huge, of course. I feel like maybe our generation was very much, well, even today, it's often about what you have and what you're doing and, how you're building your life on the exterior, and your extrinsic world, what that looks like. And I've always been super conscientious and really hard on myself. So even though there's going to be an element of judgment and, logically I knew it's like, who cares, live your truth. And I really believe that. The inner judgment was probably the biggest hurdle of all. And my immediate close family would say, I often would be like, don't judge me, because it was a thing. I wanted to be unconditionally accepted. And I actually believed in my heart that if I was that unhappy or unable to function in a real thriving kind of environment, that my partner would want this also, but that was not the case. I felt we had very different views on what we believed marriage to be. And I had to work through a lot with that.
So, and thank you for sharing honestly with that, because I feel like part of the times when we get that inner guidance, we get that inner feeling. And I also want to share that most times it's the woman who will proceed with a divorce, because usually it's the women that have that gut feeling that they know they can have a better life. Nothing against the men out there, but usually it is the woman most times who say, I think we need to do something different.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about sex. Okay, here we go into the different realm. She's like, great.
Gotta go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so sex. What advice would you give to your younger self regarding sex?
Oh, like, it's okay to leave the lights on. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's okay to have your needs met. It's not all about the other person. Yeah, and that sex is actually a sharing of yourself and an expression of connection, and it shouldn't be reckless. Yeah, it's not just a take, it's a give.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's a share, not really even a give. It's
Yeah.
a share.
That's really good.
Yeah.
So, being 49 and you're 48, I remember being 44, and I remember thinking, who's going to want to date me? I remember having that moment of, I'm a mother of 3.
Yeah.
I have stretch marks from being pregnant. I feel like I take really good care of myself, but I had lost my confidence, being in a marriage for that long and being with a partner that didn't necessarily always show you that they thought you were attractive. Right. And so for myself, when it came to, what advice would you give to your younger self regarding sex? I would say the same thing to you, that it's not something that, is easily taken for granted. It is a connection that is deep and sacred. And I think, I remember Oprah saying that when she turned 50, it's the best sex of your life, because as a woman, you're confident in yourself and you know what you want and you're not afraid to ask for what you want. Whereas when you were back and you were younger, you just kind of let whatever happen. Now you actually know you're guiding the ship too. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
So, okay. So that's good. Okay, let's talk about love, right? Valentine's Day is coming up, and that's why we were guided to do this today, because we're moving towards the, February 14th. Okay, so let's talk about this. Do you feel that self-love is important first before finding a relationship?
For sure, 100%. Yeah, I think that, and knowing yourself and knowing how you want to be loved is even a journey onto itself, right? We all have different love languages and whatnot, and knowing what you're comfortable with, and filling your own cup. I mean, what's that Jerry Maguire thing where it's like, you complete me? It's like, no, complete yourself and then share what you have from your full trough. Yeah, because others will take as much as they can from you. So, yeah.
And I think it would probably be the same for you. Is I got married very young, right? I was like 20, I was 24 when I got married and had my first baby at 25, right?
Same.
And so when you think about that, you are growing up together, right? And so I would say my ex-husband and I, we grew up together.
Right.
But would I say that I loved myself when I met him at first? I would say not completely, not like I do now.
No. Yeah, exactly.
And I think that must come with age and wisdom and experience. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. And in the beginning, I think that I thought love was in the action. Like if I could just express enough love outwardly, that would sustain, or that would be the glue. And I think, that is a big portion of being expressive, but not unless you fully are secure in yourself and love yourself can you actually share that deeply. Yeah. It's my quest. I think it's my life purpose to figure out what is love anyway.
I know. I think it is for all of us, right? It's like we want love. Tammy says, yes, I like to say we raised each other, or more so I raised him. Yeah, that's funny, Tammy. And it's true, right? When you get married at a young age, you don't realize that really you are still, very vulnerable, right? And you're growing together. Well,
you either grow together or you grow apart. And I think very early in my relationship, opposites attract kind of thing. And I always used to think, well, I'm the yin to his yang, so to speak. But we were just on two different trajectories in life, and it was inevitable. We just thought differently. We had different values and views, and they grew separately as well. So, I felt for a long time that I loved my husband, but I wasn't in love with my husband. There wasn't active love. And I think active love is a service we have to almost do to each other. And it's work. It's hard. Yeah.
It is work. It is work. Okay. So let's go here. Okay. What advice would you give to your 20-year-old self right now? If you could go back and you could look at Tracey at 20 and say, this is what you know now, 28 years later, what would you say? What is one key point that you would say to her?
Slow down. You don't need to be in such a rush. I just pole vaulted myself out of my family of origin where my parents had split up just when I graduated high school. And I felt like I was on a mission to create my own family and, to find success with my career and become a respiratory therapist. I was passionate about that. And I just, within a year, I got married, got a job, graduated, got pregnant, moved, it was like, I just had to do it all, and throw me another ball, I can manage it. It's, an object in motion stays in motion. It's a law of physics. But I felt like I was never really taught to pause. And yeah, I just feel like take a breath.
Slow down.
Yeah.
I know, I'm thinking, what would I say? I think what I would say is look internally versus externally.
Right.
Because what I found is that I got into the game of, I was always doing like you were, but I was always pleasing externally versus internally.
Right.
And I think that's why we end up with health issues down the road, is because we're trying to please everyone, but ourselves. Cheryl says, true, always thinking you had to grow up, do well and be an adult instead of just enjoying your youth. Yeah, you're right, Cheryl. Like I remember even having the three girls, and my girls were all 3 years apart. And I remember thinking, oh, I just wish they would be older. This is so busy. I remember sitting on the toilet to go to the bathroom, and I was so tired from breastfeeding all night that I would just close my eyes and I would think, okay, just give me 5 minutes of sleep here, right? Before I had to go out and change the next diaper. And I'm sure that you found the same thing.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And I was always so serious, although I like to laugh and have fun. But now I feel that now that I'm older, I wish I played more, even though I feel like I did play a lot with my children. It just goes fast when you're in it. The days are long, but the time is short. So,
you are right. You are right. Okay. That is good. Okay. So we got to bring some laughs to this part. Okay. So how is dating in your 40s different than in your teens?
Oh my gosh. What's dating anyway?
Okay, so we just learned something the other day. Share what your son said about, if you're seeing someone versus if you're dating.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that my 20 and 22-year-old children kind of mentor me a little on what dating actually is, or this whole online business of how you operate or roll. But my son said he wanted to introduce me to someone he was seeing. I hope that's okay. I'm sharing this. And then I said, well, I thought you were dating her. Isn't she your girlfriend? And he said, no, I'm seeing her. She probably will be my girlfriend. I really like her, but we're just seeing each other. So I'm like, so do people just see a bunch of people? Like, so to me, they're dating a bunch of people. So he delineated, oh no, it's just, this is the sequencing of how this goes. And I think back when I was younger, I grew up in a really small town, so you weren't dating or seeing multiple people. Well, maybe you were, but it generally was you just date. You're going out on a date, or you're sharing time with someone if you liked them. So yeah, and it was never really fully explained. I guess boundaries has been an issue for me my whole life, and that kind of even comes up like, well, what the hell? Like, what's the sequence of things? Yeah, because it's important to talk about it, I guess. Yeah.
So key point, when she told me that, I was like, oh, there's a difference between seeing someone now and dating somebody. So like, this is all new for me, ladies and gentlemen. It's something, why I'm writing the book, because I'm trying to understand. So how is dating in your 40s different than in your teens? So back then, it wasn't online shopping, right? You didn't have all these different apps to go on, and you're swiping left, swiping right. You're trying to create a profile. You're getting all kinds of pics sent to you.
Yeah.
Back in the good old days, I was raised in a really small hamlet myself, being a farm girl. It was like you would meet somebody in the hallway at school, and they would, tell a friend that they liked you. They might pass you a note and ask you out, right? Do you remember that? Or, they would actually pick up the phone. They would ask for your phone number, right? And you would give your phone number to them, and they would call you, right?
And you'd lay on the floor for hours wrapped up in the cord of
totally
the phone
would.
and
Yeah.
talk and talk and talk.
Yeah.
And I even had party line. They're like, "Are you off the phone
I know.
yet? Hang up." Right?
I know. And my mom would do that too. She would listen sometimes on the party line, and I would be horrified. So I had to talk in code.
Yeah.
So I think that's changed.
Oh.
The other thing is the trust for me. It's like, with this new dating, you go and meet somebody online that you only read their profile. You might talk to them on the phone before you meet them. Whereas in the old days, you knew their family, you knew where they were from. So you had that safety and that security.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. It is a small world, though. I find it's interesting the people you gravitate to today. But back in the day, I mean, it was a smaller world then that you could, the social media has changed a lot, and access type of thing, and expectation, though. I think it's so much more inauthentic, but I'm trying not to buy into that story.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about that for a minute. When you talk about inauthentic, Mark Groves is an amazing educator on dating and relationships. Right. And the other day he had a post on ghosting, and I want to talk about this because what I find is that it's easy with social media to just, drop someone, never talk to them again. And I think, back when we were teenagers, we would have never been able to do that, because you would have seen that person at a community event or in high school, and you had to deal with the ending, right? Yeah. And now I feel like, this is the disadvantage I feel of social media, is that it's easy to disconnect and just, walk away, rather than deal with the truth of
where you're
looking at someone and saying, you know what, I don't feel the chemistry between us, you know?
Or there's these, pauses, or you get dropped for a while and picked back up, they resurrect themselves. So, I mean, I guess you have to trust that it's a timing thing. It's a very different world for dating from which we knew. Absolutely.
Okay. What topic should we do next? I have some good questions here. Nancy helped me create these. Okay. How about, let's do spirituality. Okay.
Okay.
Are you good with that?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. So, do you consider yourself a spiritual person? And if so, why?
For sure. I think I've always been a closet spiritual person. I was brought up Catholic, and always felt a deep connection, but I questioned everything, and there was no space for the questions. So, it was just because, but even over and above that, I honored the thread of, there's something more there. There's something mysterious here, and there's something governing here. And I really did have faith in God and faith in a bigger picture. And when the chips were down and I couldn't understand anybody, I felt like I never was fully alone. So, that kind of got in my course. But spirituality to me, I kind of find it comes to me, it's not in a church, it comes through interactions, serendipitous events. I always get signs. I've always really had deep reverence for anything spiritual.
So the other thing that you and I connect on a lot is nature, and how nature is it's Mother Earth's body, and how if you're hiking, if you're swimming in the ocean, if you are, enjoying any aspect. To me, I remember, so I'm going to talk about this for a minute. So all three of my girls are were christened and baptized. And I remember 2 of them are United Faith, and one is holy smokes, my brain is gone. Yeah, it's not there. So they're all 3 different. And so I remember talking to the minister. He came to the ranch one day and he said to me, if I'm going to baptize, your daughter, you need to commit to coming to church every Sunday. And I grew up United, and I grew up going to church. Oh, Anglican, that's the other one. Yeah. I grew up, I went to the Anglican church with my grandma, and my granddad was United. And so I got to see both, different aspects of religion, which is why I do what I do now, because I want to bring it all together, because I believe, as this picture behind me, we all come from the same divine spark. That's my belief. Right. It's just religion has segregated the humans. And so when I talk about that, he said to me, you need to have that commitment. And I said to him, what if religion or my spiritual belief is that I can go out on the ranch and I can look at the hills, I can ride a horse, and I can really connect with nature? Is that not spirituality? And he said, you know what? I actually can't argue with you on that. Right. And it was like I brought a different perception to what his thinking was. Yeah. And I really appreciated that. And he did agree to baptize, my youngest daughter, and doing that, our youngest daughter. So spirituality is kind of what got me through all of my big traumas in my life. Absolutely. It was that knowing that I wasn't afraid to die if that's what was going to happen. I knew I would be okay. Right. And it was also what allowed me to rise every day when I was on the floor in my closet crying my eyes out. Right. I knew that there was something inside of me that was greater than myself. Yes. Yeah. And there's an openness to that too. Like even the questioning, I think as a child for the spirituality, like I was just wanting to know. I just wanted to understand things and to see what's beyond that mystery. Like, why are we here? What are we doing? And my time in the emergency department, people would say, how can you deal with children dying? Like, whoa, I couldn't do that job. And I thought, like, it's an honor and a privilege to see someone transition and to watch an innocent child die. It's like, there's no reasoning for it. And there's a lot of emotional things to work through, but there's this connection of, well, aren't they just part of everything that is? There's this like heavenly, beautiful peacefulness to it that, they're back to, they've gone back to where they've come from. So nothing is closer to God than a child. So I know that is, I believe it's an honor too. Okay. So we are going to, what is the next question we're going to do here? Which category? Somebody tell us which category we should choose here. Nancy, why don't you do that? Nancy says, it was easier when we were young. Someone asked you out and you were their girlfriend. Right. Now we have so many different labels. No one has to be accountable. Oh, right. That is so good, Nancy. That is true. The accountability has been lost on many different aspects. I really like that. In all areas. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to choose then, or you choose. Which category should we do? What did we not choose yet? Try another taboo one. We'll go for that. Okay, let's do this. Have you ever been in love with someone and never told them? Yeah, of course. Yes. Yes? Definitely, yeah. For sure. Jennifer says taboo. Okay, we read your mind, Jennifer. Yeah. Love with someone and never told them. Well, gosh. It's funny that this just morphs into a different thing that I'm like, where did I always had this connection of wanting to love somebody or be in love. And when I was really young, grade 3 even, I think I deeply admired and thought I was in love with this guy in grade 12. I'm thinking, thank God he didn't like this small child loves me. But so much so that I cut his picture out of our yearbook and carried around a little heart frame and put it everywhere and be like, oh, I just love Brendan Kennedy, blah, blah, blah. Like, I was just like totally fixated on him.
But yeah, I think that I had secret crushes on a lot of people, which was interesting. So that was fed by my friends and by my small town too. Everybody kind of eventually knew, but yeah, I mean, I've always had that. Yeah. And even today, sometimes.
Do you? Yeah.
Well, yeah. Love that cannot be. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, we have experienced that, haven't we? Okay. So the whole point of us gathering together, I see people coming on and off, is that, you know, we hope we hit a point here that resonates with you. And we're just trying to bring some entertainment and some life and some energy, you know, to what we're all going through right now, right? So we're kind of multi-layered. Okay. The other thing I want to ask you, I think this is really good, because if you could get cosmetic surgery, what would you get done? We're in the taboo section again, ladies.
Oh dear.
Oh dear.
I don't know. I'm like struggling with that too. There's little things perhaps I would like to have done, but perhaps nothing big. I've kind of gone that route.
Yeah.
In the past, and in retrospect, I did it completely for me. I didn't, you know, it was about my body and my self-image, and now I'm at a place where I'm trying to accept myself. Given the fact that I am dating, and I feel like most guys that are in my age group would be dating like 35-year-olds, it's, you know, it's this whole temptation, like, let me do this or let me do that. But no, I don't think I'd do anything big. Small things. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, thanks. Nancy's saying boobs for me, a lift. I know. So that's what we're talking about. When you're dating and you're this age, there's certain things in your body. Yes, you're confident, but you're also like, hey, this isn't like when I was 20.
Yeah.
You know, like things are different. But that just comes with age for men and women.
Right.
So, yeah, I appreciate your honesty with that, because I find some women fight aging. You know, they do everything possible through surgeries and you name it to look like you are 30 when you are 50, right? And then there's those of us that actually, we just want to embrace it. Okay. Okay. Let's talk about children for a minute.
Okay.
Do you see yourself in your kids?
Oh gosh. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. Very much so. I have 4, and each one of them sort of manifests a different aspect of me, for sure. So I do see myself. The good traits are nice to look at, but then some of the bad traits transfer over, or I find some of them are learning the same lessons or having to learn the same lessons that I have, because they have the same type of heart that I do, or they're caring, or, you know, they're vulnerable, I guess. But for sure, I see myself in all of my children. Yeah, my son is like, my oldest son is me in male form, which is interesting. So I feel like I get to view the world through his eyes as a man. Yeah.
That's kind of neat.
That's what I would look like if I was a boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I never got to experience that because I have 3 daughters, but I always say that Stephen and I are both very stubborn people, and, you know, that shines through very strongly, but it also shines through as determination in all 3 of my girls, which I see is the strength, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, it exudes. Okay, now there was one question that I want to ask here. If you could go back to a life event, anything from your childhood to now, with a big famous event in life, what event would you like to go
and be part of during my lifetime? Oh, I know exactly what this one would be.
Yeah.
A big event. And it's big, but it's not. I remember Terry Fox was running through Cape Breton, and I learned about it in school, and I went home and I told my parents, and there really wasn't much publicity. He started in the East, and for consideration of that, you know, Maritimers are quite generous. It really didn't get the media and attention it should have. But my dad showed up from work really tired, and I remember wanting him to take me to go see Terry go by, across the causeway or something, which would have been another hour's drive. And he was like, what? blah, 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 you know, I'm not doing that. And so I missed my opportunity, and who would know down the road it would be such a milestone of a hero in the chance that we had missed or went by. But I really wanted to see him, so I always had a bit of a
Terry Fox, yes.
fixation.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was talking to Nancy last night, and the one thing that I would have liked to have been is Princess Di. I think we all remember the moment that she actually died, right? That's the moment.
The marriage.
Yeah.
I'm like the fairy tale. Oh, the wedding.
It was a fairy tale. I remember thinking she's not really dead. This really, she can't be. And it was like devastating, right?
Yes.
And I was thinking the same thing of JFK Jr. too. I always thought he was such a handsome man. And I thought, how he can't die. He can't be there. I'm just getting old enough to possibly date him. Like, how can this be happening? Right? Okay, so we have time for a few more questions. Does anybody have any questions that you want to ask either one of us? So if you do, go ahead and comment.
In Thunder Bay.
Yeah, and we're going to ask. Okay, let's go back here to, do you look for red flags on your first date?
Yes, and I read something interesting in which I've actually come to know about myself also. You know, I run on high adrenaline, those who know me. And sometimes red flags show up as butterflies, and I feel like I misinterpret them, and so I can kind of step aside that. So I'm trying to be more aware and cognizant of patterns. But yeah, I definitely look for red flags. And although I've been fixated on the red flags, and I've been looking more for green flags. Yeah. And trying to find that balance. But there's certain red flags that definitely is a full stop.
Okay, good. Thank you. Nancy says, so she wants to know, Tracey, if you could date someone that isn't spiritual or spiritually open. That's a good question. Thank you, Nancy.
Yeah, we were having a conversation about this not long ago. I think that I definitely could date someone who is spiritual. I think I would like to be with someone who is at least open. I guess openness to me is equal to spirituality in a sense. They wouldn't have to be at the same level of spirituality as me, but also if they were much more spiritual than myself, that I might find that a little bit intimidating. But yeah, I would hope to have someone who's spiritual.
So I was recently asked this question a while ago by a male, and he said to me, I would have thought that you would have wanted to date someone who was really spiritual. And my answer is that I feel like I need someone who grounds me. I need somebody who, you know, can just sort of put me back down on the ground because I tend to float up and around.
Likewise.
So when you're really creative and very spiritual, you know, here we are. Actually, we all drew our cards before we started, Tracey and I, and we actually got 2 of the same cards, which is ironic. And we have a crystal here. So we're quite spiritual, but for me, I prefer a manly man. Like I want a man who, and not saying that spiritual men aren't at all. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I want a man who can, you know, change the oil in my car, who can, even, you know, work with cattle, because that's kind of what I grew up with. Who's very intellectual, who's has dry humor, is witty, makes me laugh, but is open to the fact that I am a spiritual teacher. Right? Yeah. So for me, that's kind of where I go is I want them to be open, but I don't necessarily need them to be doing the same line of work that I'm doing.
Yeah. And I feel the same as well.
Okay. Yeah, Nancy manly goes, man. Me too, manly man. So here we are with the manly man. What is a manly man, right? And Ashley says, absolutely, to have someone that grounds and balances you is great. Yeah, I know. Ashley just had baby. He's a beautiful little guy. Aww, congrats. Okay, so we have one more question and then we're gonna wrap this up. Let's talk about, what do you like most about your appearance? We're going into the age category.
What do I like most about my appearance?
Yes.
I feel like my body or my my whole beingness exudes my light. Like, I feel like I'm able to express myself playfully.
Yeah.
That I wear it that way, that even though might be 48 years old, I like to, there's this youthful appearance about me. I like to dress whatever. I mean, there's sometimes I'm like, oh, should I wear this? Because it's kind of youthful or playful, you know, that type of thing. So I think that I try to exude my spirit through my appearance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. That's really good. That's, you know, I've always said that, you know, our energy shows our age rather than our physical body.
Right.
And I feel the physical body will represent our energy.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
That's very good. Okay, so we're at the hour, and I truly want to thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And for being honest and open and being willing to share. Like, thank you from my heart for being in my life.
You're
and
welcome.
for all that you have done, and for being here 5 years ago on this day for me.
Yep.
I truly thank you and love you and appreciate all that you are.
Thank you.
And you are such an inspiration to me for your courage and the mother that you are and the adventurous and how smart you are. Those things are all
Thank you.
I value in you. So thank you.
Well, thanks for having me. And thanks for all you do to share and to, you know, talk about the difficult subjects and put it out there. You know, it's not easy to be in the world today, and we need these kind of talks.
We do.
Yeah.
We do. So I want to thank all of you for watching, and those of you that are going to watch the replay. I will be here every Wednesday. Next Wednesday, I am having the beautiful Jordan Guilford, who is the founder of Gems for Gems. And we're going to go deep. We're going to go into those topics where, you know, people don't want to talk about. We are going to go into the space of, you know, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jody. Jody says, thank you both for your wisdom and perseverance and courage. Yeah, honey, absolutely. So yes, thank you, Alex. Thank you. So that is hopefully what you all receive from this is some inspiration during these times of turbulence, and that you understand that there's going to be moments where we're real and raw. So if you want to know more about my work, you can go to www.velvadawn.com and you can check out, or go on to Velva Dawn and check out and see what's happening. So have an amazing week, everybody. And I will see you back here at 10 o'clock next Wednesday. Goodbye, everybody.
Take care.